No WMDs in Iraq. No reason for war. Here's George W. Bush speaking about the weapons of mass destruction never found in Iraq.
How just sick you felt to your stomach when you found out there were no weapons of mass destruction. Can you bring me to that moment? Did someone walk in and say, we've stopped looking, they're not there? Who was it? How did that happen?
It just kind of was, it evolved. The fact that there wasn't weapons evolved. I mean, when we first got in there, started looking around and didn't find anything, you get that kind of sinking feeling that, uh-oh. And then time went on, and then we got tips, I'll never forget the tip that there was crates buried, hidden in the Euphrates River. So they found, maybe these are them, and they've sent frogmen, and there was nothing there. And so, and then, of course, George Tenet had the inspectors go back in, or David Kay and Dulfer, and that pretty well was a period at the end of the sentence there. And yeah, I felt terrible about it. And on the other hand, those reports did point out that Saddam Hussein was very dangerous, that he had the capacity to make weapons, and I'm convinced that if he were in power today, the world would be a lot worse off.
One of the things I think that I thought about at the time, and I wonder if you did, and you talk a lot in the book about Abu Ghraib and how outraged you were about that, about not finding WMD when you had a CIA director who had said slam dunk.
No, he said slam dunk, that the case, he didn't say slam dunk weapons. His point, just so you know, was that the case was a solid case. In other words, presenting the case would be a solid case to the people.
A solid case that there were WMD.
Right, that the evidence showed that he had WMD. I'm not.
Right.
I mean, we're splitting hairs.
Right.
But sorry.
Well, but my question is, when you look at those things about Abu Ghraib, about the WMD, it seems as though no one ever paid for that. We went to war largely on that basis, and I know you argue that that there is an argument that we're better off without Saddam Hussein, who was a brutal dictator and a horrible man. But the fact of the matter is that we sent young men and women there who were killed, as I know you know better than anybody else, and no one ever. You never said, you're responsible for this, you're out. And so the American people, I think, began to kind of lose confidence in their government.
I can see that. First of all, I was responsible. And the 2004 campaign was partially about that responsibility. But, yeah, I mean, the commander-in-chief responsible. And, I wish we'd have found weapons of mass destruction. However, that doesn't make the cause a lost cause.
Right, and something that, I mean, that's something you have argued.
So I believe a free Iraq is going to be transformative in the Middle East, and it's not going to happen under our lifetime. I mean, we're going to have to, you and I will be, well, I know I'll be long gone, but I think someday.
I'm sticking around.
I hope so. But I think somebody's going to look back someday and say, thank goodness the United States believed in the universality of freedom and liberated 25 million people and gave the Iraqis a chance to have their own free society.
Now here's Colin Powell.
Colin Powell, all right, writing in his new memoir about your February 5th, 2003 speech to the UN, which has now become historic, here's what the president, former president, says. Colin's presentation was exhaustive, eloquent, and persuasive. Coming against the backdrop of Saddam's defiance of the weapons inspectors, it had a profound impact on the public debate. Later, many of the assertions in Colin's speech would prove inaccurate, but at the time, his words reflected the considered judgment of intelligence agencies at home and around the world. Do you wish you'd been less exhaustive, eloquent, and persuasive?
No, that was my job at the time, and the information that I was being given by the intelligence community hung together. And I spent 4 days and nights out at the CIA going over it and asking every way I could, are you sure of this? You have multiple sources on this. And I got those assurances. There's the same assurances that the intelligence community gave to the president, the same assurances the intelligence community gave to the Congress 4 months earlier at the request of the Congress, and the Congress passed a resolution supporting the president if he decided he had to take military action. That was months before I ever gave my UN speech.
But a lot of people counted on you.
I know.
You changed the ball.
I turned the dial. There's no question about it. And that's what the president wanted me to do and what I was supposed to do.
You regret it?
I regret it now because the information was wrong. Of course I do. But I will always be seen as the one who made the case before the international community. But there wasn't a word in that speech, in that presentation, that was not vetted and approved by the intelligence community. But that's neither here nor there.
Are you ticked?
Yeah. You know, I've had members of Congress say to me, well, you know, I voted for the resolution because of your presentation. And I had to remind them, no, you didn't. You voted for the resolution 3 months before my presentation.
But you helped public opinion.
I swayed public opinion. There's no question about it. But, you know, for months afterward, when we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction, we didn't find the biological vans or any of that, until 6 or 8 months later, the intelligence community still insisted that the items were there, and they weren't.
When you left, you were an unhappy man, weren't you?
No, I wouldn't say I was an unhappy man. I was glad to be moving on in my life.
Glad to leave?
At that point, yes. And the president and I had conversations in early 2004 when he was getting ready for, you know, the next campaign. And I said to him that I thought it was time for me to leave at the end of my first 4 years. I had no desire to stay on for a longer period of time. And I also made it clear to the president that I didn't think our system, our national security system, was working as well as it should, wasn't serving him as well as it should, and that he should think about making some changes, and I think the changes began with me.
So why did we go to war with these people? Why did thousands of innocent lives have to be lost? Iraqi, American, civilian alike? Well, I'll give you 3 reasons. Number 1, money.
For people who don't remember, George Bush was the president back then, and his vice president was Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney, before he became vice president of the United States, was CEO of a company called Halliburton, which is a huge multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company that provides mostly oil services to oil companies. And when the United States went into Iraq and took it over, Halliburton got a few multi-billion-dollar contracts with the federal government that they didn't even compete for. It was a no-bid contract, they called it. Now, this should not happen because the way the government procurement system is set up, it's set up to be a competition of who can give the lowest price to the government. But they just ended up giving it to Halliburton without any competition, and that created a big scandal, especially since Dick Cheney was a former CEO and now he's the vice president, and coincidentally, they now get this enormous multi-billion-dollar contracts, and so that created a big political scandal.
Number 2, power.
How these people who wanted this war for years before 9/11, literally, if you go read this out, Project for a New American Century, which was the think tank of all the neocons, it was like 20 people who were the signatories on it. It was like Dick Cheney and Paul Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl. I think 10 of the 20 went on to have high-level positions in George W. Bush's administration. And they wrote before 9/11 that our whole plan here is to fight multiple wars in the Middle East, and the first stop is overthrowing Saddam Hussein. And in their own words, they wrote, but we probably can't get public support for that short of another Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
And then after 9/11, they went, got it. This is and then like 1 million people got killed in Iraq. Like just that alone. This is like so evil. If you
Or in number 3, because Israel told America to.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever. The nuclear armed Saddam will place the security of our entire world at risk. And make no mistake about it, if and once Saddam has nuclear weapons, the terror network will have nuclear weapons.
If you liked this video, please make sure to click like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.